Hi Delvers, in this lesson we were talking about the functions that we can use with numeric data types, and that's what we call numeric functions. So I'm just going to first pull up the data all together so we see what we have in this data. So I'm going to just select everything. I'm going to do it select everything from I think it's stored data, sales data. That's the name of the data. So I'll load that up quickly. No, sorry. I'm just going to cancel that. Okay. So I'm just going to drag the results up. So here's our sales data. Now we're working with numeric data. So I'm just going to go straight to a column that has numeric data so we can work with that. All right. So we have sales. I'm just going to start with cost for now. So I'm going to select cost. I'm just going to load that up now. And there it is. So now let's say we want to play around with this. Now the first numeric function we'll talk about is the round numeric function. Now the round numeric function helps us round a number to the nearest whole number. And this is important if you want to query a data set, a numeric data. You want to probably is saved in decimal, but you don't need the decimal. You just need the whole number. That's all you need. You need the round function. So the round function, as I said, is just to round up numbers. So I'm just going to put from. I'm just going to say, sorry. I'm just going to round, right, the cost. I think it's there, right? I'm just going to round. I'm just going to round the cost. Around the cost. Let's see what that does. And you can see now it's rounded the figure to the nearest whole number. So you can compare this. I think I'll also still leave the cost there so you can compare both columns together. So now 88.36 has now become 88. It just rounds off to the nearest whole number. Now, another thing that we can use with our round function is we can specify if we don't just want a whole number, we want to also round off to a decimal point. Say, for example, I want to round off to the nearest one decimal point. I can say round the cost, then I can put a comma, then I say 1. Now, so that's rounding it off. However, it's rounding to the nearest to the nearest one decimal place. So if I reload that now, you can see 88.36 has now become 88.4, right? 118.45 has now become 118.4. It is rounded it to the nearest one decimal place. And you can change that to 2, to 3, whichever way you want. Another function that we use and the numeric data type is ceiling. Ceiling. And just from the name, as the name implies, ceiling speaks about something that is above, right? We say the ceiling of a house. We're speaking about the sometimes the roof, or basically something that is above. So I'm just going to do that quickly. I'm just going to say ceiling of cost. So what ceiling does is it works like rounding off. However, ceiling rounds off to round off the figure. Ceiling round up to a whole number. So for example, instead of choosing the lower end of the whole number, ceiling chooses the higher end of the whole number. So let's load this so we can compare these in our study. Now, 88.36. Normally, if we're just rounding, this will become 88, right? But ceiling rounds up, not down. So now 88.36 has now become 89. Can you see that now? 69.05 has now become 70. So ceiling rounds up to the nearest whole number. Now the exact opposite of ceiling is what we call floor. Floor runs down. So if I change ceiling there to floor and I reload that now. Now don't forget we have 88.36. I'm just going to put ceiling also, so that it makes sense, so that I can compare it all together. So I'm just going to do that. So let's reload that now. So we have 88.36 has now become 89 for the ceiling. That is, that's rounded up the value to the nearest whole number. But for the floor, it has rounded down the value to the nearest whole number. So that's just the difference between ceiling and floor. And the last one we'll consider today, which I'm not sure we have the exact data in our table to compare to experiment this, is the absolute. Absolute, as the name implies, actually, is just to change a negative value to a positive value. So you are dealing with the data and you really don't care about the negative portion of the data. You just want to change it from negative to positive. That's when you use the absolute function. Now, if I load that now, it won't change anything, right? Because all the values we have in our cost, they are all positives. So it's not going to do anything. But basically, what the ABS, which is the absolute, does is it changes the value from positive, or if the value is positive, it changes the value from negative to positive. An example, I'm just going to put a value there. Say I'm putting minus 7.5. Let's load that now. Now, can you see now? Minus 7.5 has now become 7.5. So that's what the absolute does. So these are the 4 popular numeric functions we use in SQL: the round function, the ceiling function, the floor function, and the ABS function. In our next lesson, we're talking about the string functions. That's a little bit more elaborate than the numeric function, but I'm so sure that you will learn a lot from that also. See you in the next class. Bye.